stage nerves. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, I'll just try to centre a little. Now the only truth that is valid is that of direct personal experience. All other truths or beliefs in truth are second-hand knowledge. And that sort of belief is a confession of ignorance. Now, I'm going to speak on cancer tonight and its spiritual implications. Now that may sound very strange, that cancer could have any connection with one's spiritual life. Well, there are four aspects of reality and you cannot separate any of them. They are the physical, the psychological, the psychic and the spiritual. And any barriers you put up between them are false barriers. Within your being, as you are right now, is all the knowledge about yourself, your problems, and your challenges that you will ever need to know. You sit within the miracle of yourself and you ask for signs, and you look outside of yourself for these things. And when you do that, you look in the wrong direction. Now, before I start on illness, I want to make one thing very clear. You create through your beliefs, your innermost beliefs, your expectation of what will happen in the future, and particularly through your emotions. With those, you create your own reality. You have been given the gift of gifts, the ability to project your thoughts, your beliefs and emotions outward into physical existence. It will manifest in the body and in your environment. There are no accidents. There are no chance meetings. You create with magical clarity the events that seemingly happen to you in your ordinary daily existence. You create them. No God invented murder or war or suffering or illness. These we create ourselves. Generally we create these things quite unconsciously. We do it all the time, every day. We are conditioned into thinking that we are victims of our environment. Some of you, I'm sure, suspect or may even know that you are creators of your environment. This is not a new thought. It's as old as the universe, and it has been taught throughout the millennium, and it has been misunderstood and misinterpreted and distorted in all religions. The tool you use is the mind, and the mind, not being physical, does not die. The mind, using beliefs and emotions, reflects in the body. Now, let's begin to see the mind's relationship to the body. and then we'll go on to cancer. Now, I'm not giving you any information that you don't know yourself, that you haven't experienced. You may not have seen the implications here. What happens if a man or woman is terrified? The emotion of fear is enormously strong. There is terror. Does that emotion reflect in the body? Does the body not tremble? Your hands not shake? Your knees not knock together? What happens if a person is under extreme, immediate tension? Just think of an outrageous example. Say you had to defuse a bomb for the bomb squad. Would the body not start to reflect this? Would the body not perspire as mine begins to now? By the time you defuse that bomb, your shirt would be covered in perspiration. The emotion reflected immediately in the body. And this applies to any immediate tension. You can probably think of a dozen ways this reflects in the body. But we never really take that further. Let's look at another aspect of the mind and its relation to the physical condition of the body. Now you all know that if a witch doctor points the bow at a tribesman, that tribesman is very likely to die. Now we know the witch doctor doesn't kill the man, and we know the bone doesn't kill the man. So what kills that tribesman? His belief system. He believes it. Can belief be this strong that it can destroy your body? Of course. Now, a modern, civilized, as we call them, doctor, seeing that sort of incident, could say to the tribesman, look, the bone can't possibly kill you. And the tribesman would very rightly answer, don't give me that, doc, just look what it's doing to my body. So if the doctor's wise, he'll think of some trick. He might plant, say, a stick of plastic gelignite or whatever it's called, plastic explosive under a big rock, detonate it, and say, can your guy top that one? And if his guy cannot top that one, that tribesman might be led to believe that the civilized doctor's magic is very potent. And so then the doctor could give the tribesman a placebo, sugar and water, nothing more, and say, my magic is strong, this will cure you, no doubt about it. And it's very likely that that man will be cured. Does the placebo cure the man? Of course not. His belief does. Now, if his mind can destroy his body, and if his mind can cure his body, it's about time we began to apply this to ourselves. Now, I know we all think that we're highly civilized, that the tribesman is a poor, ignorant, superstitious person, and we wouldn't fall for that sort of trick. Well, we are constantly bombarded by the media into the belief that our bodies are utterly vulnerable to disease, to bacteria, to to any sort of illness, and we have no defense against them. We get this in television, radio, newspapers, magazines. You know the sort of thing I mean. Now that winter is upon us and the flu season is with us, at the first sign of a sniff or a cold or what have you, take 3 sips of the local, latest drop of whatever happens to be in fashion at the moment. Constantly bombarded with the idea which we pick up from childhood that our bodies are vulnerable to these things, our belief system. And because we believe these things have these effect on us and that we have no defense, we do become vulnerable to them. Now, a very great master, an enlightened man, said, nothing of itself is evil. But if you believe a thing to be evil, that thing becomes evil. And if you believe a thing to be good, that thing becomes good. Now, you know the master, of course, was Jesus ben Joseph. But we never really apply this. We never look at it. Illness and suffering are not inflicted upon you by God, by nature, or any outer source. They are the result of your own enormous creative energy. You see that third sentence down there about latent power? It's not really latent at all. You use it every day. The idea is to become aware of what you are doing. Now, in the light of that, let's look at cancer. Whether you know it or not, cancer is the result of your own inner beliefs and emotions. Not the sort of emotions that I described that have an immediate effect on the body, because those sort of emotions are allowed to flow. And so there's no real problem there. But I'm speaking of the type of emotion that is insidious, the sort of non-dramatic one, the sustained frustration, feeling of powerlessness in any particular situation. That sustained will be manifested in the body. To try to give you some example here, a man made suddenly redundant or retired from his work, which he found fulfilling, satisfying, may begin to believe that he's no longer the breadwinner, that his life has virtually lost its meaning, and he doesn't sit there and tear his hair. It's an inner feeling. Now my life is over. I feel powerless to grow and develop. And that's sustained. Many of these things we don't want to look at. They're like a gut feeling. And that can be reflected in the body. A woman may give up her job, which interested her, or the pattern of her bachelor days, to marry. And she devotes her life to being a good mother and a good wife. Whenever a regret comes up about what she would have liked to have done with her life, she pushes that aside. She represses the emotion. She does not allow it to flow. So there's a sort of nagging frustration there which she will not express because she justifies her life. I am a good wife and mother, she thinks. Often in women, when they reach menopause, they feel that in some way they have lost their femininity. Now they don't go around telling that to the world. It's a gut feeling. The feeling that that sort of part of their productive life is over, and they carry that irritation, that feeling of powerlessness. What now do I do with my life? And that, with a sort of symbolism, can be reflected in the breast or in other parts of the body. Now, the mind creates your own reality. In all the universe, there are really only two laws. Sometimes, in some circles, they're called the word. I call them the gift, because the law sounds too authoritarian, and the word is a little obscure. The gift we can all understand. The ability to project your thoughts outward into the physical world. You create your own reality. Together with that is free will. And free will means there is no predestination. And the distorted interpretation of karma does not apply. If you realize the real illusion of time as a sort of sequence of events, one following another, if you knew that that was an illusion, you would know that karma could not possibly exist. Now with cancer, if the mind can cause it, no matter what tool it uses, I want to make that clear. If the mind can cause it, it can cure it. You're dealing with belief systems here. If you believe that something dark and evil has invaded your body from outside, then you're creating very badly through your belief systems. If you believe that the doctors can cure you, you must go to the doctors. You must do that. You have to work within your own belief system. There's no other way. You can change your belief. And there are many methods, usually through meditation, through visual imagery, where you can change your belief system. Now, I will read you what I've written for anyone who knows people with cancer and would like to give them this. It's something I wrote for someone that came to see me when I was living in Victoria, and she had cancer. And I'm happy to say that this one turned out to be benign. It's just called on chronic illness, and I've written this. All chronic illness in adults is nearly always the result of another act which cannot be followed through. An interior illness, one that cannot be seen, invariably indicates that the personality is not yet willing to face the problem. Look for areas where you've not been able to express yourself, have not been spontaneous, have blocked the expression of your own emotions. Look for areas where you've channeled all your energy to the denial of growth and development in your personal relationships. Examine your talents and abilities. They are unique to you, though you may not think so. Are you using them? Or are you being frustrated in using them? Examine your negative attitudes. Have you been carrying fear, resentment, guilt, hatred? All such feelings give you a sense of powerlessness. You are delegating your own authority to other people. You put your own power outside of yourself, and that is not skillful. It is not other people who cause you illness, but rather your response to others. If you cannot find the inner problem which has caused the illness, you may simply ask the inner self to make the answer available on a conscious level. The best time to do this is before going to bed at night, and before going to sleep. Remember, illness is not a dark, evil thing. It is a valid part of your own great creative energy and springs from the same source as health, vitality and joy. Illness is in itself quite neutral, neither good nor bad. Only your responses to illness give them the characteristics of bad. Now, your family's response to your illness can be helpful or hindering. Their fears and sorrows, their worries, only help to reinforce the condition. Without realizing it, they telepathically reinforce your own negative attitudes towards your illness. Their active meditation on your behalf and their deliberate change of beliefs from negative to positive would be invaluable. Visual imagery is one way of changing those beliefs. Nevertheless, it is you yourself who must do the main work. Here are three important points in the prevention of illness. The first is to be spontaneous. The second, to allow your emotion expression. Now, you don't have to violate anyone to allow your emotion expression. And if what you're doing with your life is not fun, stop doing it. Do not forget that you are an inseparable part of the inner self. You realize when I use the term inner self, I'm simply grasping a label. Just a label, nothing more. You may have other words for this. Inner consciousness, if you prefer. Now that inner self is not using you. You work together in perfect harmony at all times. You are simply not aware of this. When you think of the condition of your illness, say to yourself, well, that is now in the past. Now in this new moment, this new present, I am already beginning to feel better, to improve. The body begins to heal itself, and I will no longer impede that healing. Then you've got to forget it. You do that 5 minutes of meditation a day, no longer. Forget it. Take some physical action if possible. Go for a walk, swim, take up painting, work, do something. For the constant desire for good health will only lead to emphasis of the present condition. Finally, learn to understand that that part of your inner consciousness that knows itself to be immortal has always been immortal and always will be immortal. That part of yourself that is totally aware of its place within all life and consciousness is intensely focused into your slightest feelings and emotions. It's meant to help and to inspire you. But you have to do the work. You're working with your own belief system. If your belief in your own ability to cure illness were only as large as a mustard seed, nothing would be impossible to you. Do you remember? You're learning that your innermost beliefs and emotions create reality. All the events that seemingly happen to you are the result and not the cause of your beliefs and emotions. While you're learning to harness this energy, you will often misdirect it. I've got a number of those for anyone with friends suffering from chronic illness. Just give me a moment, would you? Now, I've told you what I've been saying is not new. It's as old as the hills. It's been known for millenniums. I'd like to take you back about 2 millenniums. St. Clement, now known as the third Pope in succession to St. Peter. He was personally acquainted with St. Peter. He lived in the 1st century. Of course, he didn't have the title Pope then. He was known as the father of the Christian faith. And what I'm about to quote, he wrote some half a century before the New Testaments were written in their original Greek. This was the early teaching of the Christian faith. St. Clement, writing on the nature of mankind, wrote this: "From the beginning you have been immortal and children of eternal life. You destroy death and you destroy the world without yourselves being destroyed. You are lords of the universe and of all that is immortal." Now, over the centuries, we've been conditioned to believe that we are either guilty or sinful by the very nature of our physical existence. Well, that's a big change from the early teaching. A huge change. We have it in the concept, the theory of original sin in Christianity. We have it in Buddhism. Stop the wheel of birth and rebirth and get off. You have it in all religions. And in the light of what St. Clement says, and in the light of direct experience, such teachings that you are born in sin is in Christian terms like spitting in the face of God, or that which man calls God. Let me rephrase an old legend. It might become clearer. In the beginning, that which man calls God created man in its own image. That is the image of mind. And then did a beautiful thing. It let go and allowed man to create himself and his own world in his own image. That was written by a member of the Theosophical Society. Beautifully, beautifully phrased. And perfectly true. You do create your own reality. Your beliefs, your innermost beliefs are the most creative things you have, along with your emotions. These are the source of your creative energy. Now I know you can look at illness and say, well, don't tell me it's the mind when I've accidentally cut myself and in the wound came all this terrible bacteria and so forth. And there's always a logical explanation because we're looking at the tool, you see. It's like finding a man in the street who's been shot. You say, well, I know what killed that guy. That hunk of lead sticking in his head. We look at the tool, you see. What caused the bullet to be fired? Who fired the bullet? And what attracted this incident into those two people's lives? Because you create individually in your own personal life and collectively as a group. You do it as a family group. You do it in your hometown. You do it in your city, your state, your country, the world, the race. We create collectively as well as individually. You are never the victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. But you have to look at your belief system there. You'll never know till you try. You can begin to understand through reflection. Look at your own personal lives and try to find, which for most people of my enormous age is not difficult, a very bad time in your life, the most desperate, miserable, unhappy time, when everything seemed to be disastrous, when everything seemed to go wrong, when personal tragedy strike you, great failure might come into your life. Try to reflect on what your belief system was. Not what you wanted, but what you believed was going to happen. Try to think back on your state of mind and you begin to see how it operates. So using this in sport, they call it psyching the sportsman out. They get them to visualize winning. Because all the willpower in the world, all the positive thinking in the world is generally quite useless, I'm sorry to tell you. You may will something to happen, but if your gut, if you don't mind me using that word, if your gut is telling you, that's not going to happen, your emotions are those that create, not your willpower. Therefore, positive thinking may or may not work. There's no guarantee at all. Positive thinking, if you believe it will work. But there's the time delay. They've quoted St. Clement there. And what he said should be written across clear blue sky in orange letters. Let me quote something of the Buddha. It's found in the Dhammapada. Now, most of the sutras contain some profound truths and many, many distortions of the truth. The Buddha never wrote them. They were written centuries after the Buddha taught. Manupabangama Dhamma. The mind precedes reality. Manusita Dhamma. The mind has authority over reality. Manomaya Dhamma. The mind creates reality. If you read the poetic translation of that Pali in English, you would find the words very beautiful, but utterly and totally losing their point. They are distorted out of all reason. And they supply to all religions. In the first place, we tend to take even the profoundest statements on a mundane level, a very conventional level, and never a supra-mundane, a more enlightened idea of what these great teachers were teaching. Look at Jesus on belief. If you believed as much as a mustard seed, nothing would be impossible to you. Now, if that's not enough, what about this one from the great master? If you said to that mountain, get up and throw yourself into the sea, and believed with all your heart that what you said would be done, it would be done for you. A belief that moves mountains. Now, no one in this room, I'll bet, believes he could move a mountain. I believe it theoretically, but my inner gut feeling says, try it, baby. And there's no way I'm going to do it. I know in the East there are many people, not necessarily spiritual people, that's inverted commas by the way, not necessarily spiritual people, that can move physical phenomena. You see it with Uri Geller, is it? Yeah. If there were not consciousness in all things, he could not do that. What about the mind and the belief? Look at Carl Jung, the famous psychotherapist. Is that the word? Psychotherapist? Psychoanalyst. Thank you, Trudy. He wrote in a letter to all religions. Examine all of them. Try to find the answers, because the answers lie within yourself, within your own mind. There is no knowledge that you cannot draw upon. Some personalities a little tentative about the physical world may kind of put its toe in like testing the bathwater. And they just want to experience that. And so you get caught dead. A teenager may want to experience or re-experience the very early stages of life, the first 14 years. And that is it, but there is no predestination. He can change that. And so we might have a shocking accident. 2 cars hitting, slip under a bus. We're mortified and we grieve because we're missing again.